Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Woke Blows pod. Oh God, what the Woke Boast podcast? How am I going? The Woke Blokes podcast, hosted by Ryan Hassan from the Centre for Healing and Nick, the Sultan of Steel, Sutherland from Myndfit. Nico, how are you today? How are your words coming out?
My enunciation is on point, thank you.
Ah, very good. We're just having a bit of an impromptu me and you episode. We're going to have a guest on, but there seems to be a bit of a scheduling issue, the time zones and all that kind of thing. So we're looking to reschedule them. So it's just me and you today. And we're going to talk about, you had the idea of talking about psychological safety, which I think is a wonderful little thing that we can riff on, mate.
Yeah, well, it's just as you were introducing, remember the wide world of sports. I just had that in my head.
Yeah.
Wired world of sports with what's his name? Remember the
Uh,
comic dude who did the piss take of the wide
Billy
world of sports?
Birmingham is the guy that did it. Some of
Oh,
some of my fondest memories of a kid is my dad bought Still the 12th Man on must have been CD, and we had like one of those old school 80s little entertainment units in the lounge room. And
five rotating discs.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. And so we popped that in, and I remember as a kid just cacking myself laughing, just listening to that with my dad and my brother and whoever else was around.
Yeah, no, it was a childhood staple. I mean, I'm a few years older than you. I'm your elder, I'm your senior. Yeah,
Yeah, different generation. Yeah. They wouldn't have been CDs when you were a kid. They wouldn't have been tapes. What would have they been? Vinyl.
tapes.
Probably just someone drumming on a rock or something back when you were a kid.
Dinosaur drumming on a rock. Um, yeah, I heard something the other day about psychological safety, and it's a fascinating thing. The irony that we're called the Woke Blokes podcast and the woke movement happened, and there's been this massive shift, and someone got upset because a bloke got upset the other day because a store didn't stock condoms, and he's like, but men should have the right to buy prophylactics to prevent, I can't believe you're doing this, and he got really, really agitated, really upset, really offended, and I just wanted to talk about how you can only be offended if you choose to be offended.
Yes.
So it's a personal choice to be offended. No one's offending you. You have to decide that you are being offended.
Yes. Yeah. It's like the reality is shop doesn't have condoms in stock.
You can't stock everything in the world just to suit everyone's desires. And that's the thing, like from the Mindfit and Buddhist perspective, this dude walks in there with an attachment to a desired outcome, and his ego doesn't have that desire fulfilled by the external world, then he takes it personally and makes it about him and compromises his own psychological safety.
Yeah. We had a call without going into a heap of detail, but a call last week. It was a couple of hundred people on the call, and then Melissa was discussing something, and she just used the term male and female. And little did she know, because she wasn't looking in the comments on Zoom, but someone took great offense to that and went on a tirade saying, "How dare you and your company call yourself trauma informed when you can make such hateful comments and everything?" And then that started people then jumping in to defend in this really kind of toxic environment. And I wasn't on the call, but I heard from Melissa afterwards, obviously. And I had a few people I spoke on the phone with about it. And just what you're saying, they were like, and they were quite angry, you know. And so I had to sort of let them know that this is a sort of a reality of the world that we live in. But it was this sort of choice of just someone to go, hang on, this is all about me. And you all need to know that this is wrong because it doesn't quite fit with what my beliefs are. Even though it wasn't even intentionally, it's just like a term that was used. It wasn't, you know, someone saying, hey, whoever believes this is wrong. It was just simply someone, and I've had it on a call before. I remember a few years ago, I released a replay of a class we did, and it was like an hour and a half long class. And someone had sent me a big long message saying at 45 minutes and 33 seconds, You were like, I was moving on to the next slide. So I'm like, all right, I'll wrap it up there. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next one. And they're like, you use the term ladies and gentlemen, and that's really, really insensitive. And there's this whole email about it. And it's like this offense that is so easily come by in the society we live in. And it's funny because, like you said, out we're the Woke Blokes podcast, and it's kind of the toxic wokeism that gets offended at everything.
How do you respond to an email like that? Do you give it energy or do you just
Yeah,
like that?
for me, it depends. Like, I like to reach out to people in some form or another and just say, in your opinion,
All
what could
right,
we?
the classic line of, is there anything I can say that will change your mind? That comes to mind then. And so I imagine this person's already made up their mind. Whatever response you give isn't going to satisfy them.
No, and that's why I tend to, and I would never do this on. I haven't for years looked at any comments on any of our posts or ads, and that's a great thing for my mental health because otherwise you get lost in a sea of negativity. But if it's something more, I guess, personable, like a private email or on a call or something, I'll reach out and just go, what can we do differently in your perspective? And then I find more often than not that there's not a real concrete answer there. Or if it is, it's like it's so utterly ridiculous that it's like, okay, when I move on from a slide or say something, I have to spend instead of 2 seconds, I have to spend 10 minutes acknowledging every single type of person or thing that might, possibly take offense. And it's like, well, then I'm not delivering a message anymore. So I sometimes, yeah, I will engage in conversation, and it's normally I'm trying to work out their perspective. And sometimes it gets hard because, like you said, that someone's offended, they're not willing. It's not even not willing to change their mind, but not willing just to have a kind of rational discussion about it. Because at that point, they're just not rational.
No, they can't. They can't hold a rational conversation because the rational part of their brain is shut down. So I heard a comedian, there's an Aussie comedian, I can't remember his name. He's got a beard, he's spent a lot of time in the UK, is very, very smart, very intelligent. And he was talking about, people taking offense. And he's like, so what? Be offended. It's not like you go to sleep that night and your arm falls off. It's like nothing happens. It's just all that happens is you feel offended. That's it. So
Yeah. And I think the trap is so if we look at the term psychological safety, and so safety is incredibly important to every human being. We have a survival mechanism very much encoded into our brain and our nervous system, which has helped us survive as a species. And so for most of our evolution, we had physical safety, which wasn't guaranteed. Physical safety wasn't something that we could take for granted like most of us do throughout most of our lives. If we look at our lives in 2025, our physical safety, our physical life will be under threat very rarely, like very, very rarely. Whereas through most of our evolution, it's like there was famine, there was animals that were far bigger and more dangerous than us. There was other tribes that were trying to take what we've got, and just day to day was like, okay, my physical safety is under threat on a day-to-day basis. And so we have this survival mechanism which triggers us into these heightened states to be hyper alert, look around, how do I get safety? I have to react in certain ways. But that survival mechanism is still very active in us, but because our physical safety is to a large degree taken care of, and I acknowledge there's people in certain situations where it's not, but for most of us, then we have this threat to our psychological safety, or really what that is our identity. And so whenever we feel like our identity is attacked, that same survival physiology kicks in and we're offended. We look around, we're hyper alert. How can I hold this structure that I call Ryan together and make somebody else wrong who challenges something that I might believe about myself or the world? And that's why you see so much just toxic rubbish, especially online, because everybody gets triggered because their identity gets shaken up. Try to make someone else wrong, their identity gets shaken up, and they're just bouncing back and forward at each other, calling them names and being really mean, and we don't get anywhere as a society. So, instead of worrying about a saber-toothed tiger that might be behind the bush, we're really, really concerned, and it keeps us up at night about what Jenny on cubicle 3 is telling Karen about me. And so it's that same physiology that kicks into gear, which is why people react so unbelievably irrationally when they feel challenged psychologically.
I think Jenny and Karen.
It's so annoying.
Cubicle 3 is the worst.
It's just such a gossip little cubicle, that one.
Um, as a person who has had a mind that was so unwell, and part of that was agoraphobia and the anxiety. It was on my perception of the world was so horrific that I couldn't leave the house and so on. So having speaking from that level of experience, um, and now doing what I'm doing, having come out and working in this field now, it's all it's in our own head. Everything that's happening is just in your head. It's not. That's the only place it's happening. That's the only place where you're interpreting and um, applying meaning and deciding what your reality is. So much of what's happening is in terms of psychological safety, or people are compromising their own because there's all those perceived threats now, and that's the ego just going, right, I'm going to decide that that person's different to me, so I'm going to deem them to be a threat now, and the best form of defense is attack. So I'm going to attack that. I'm going to attack their identity and try and break their identity down because that's going to make me feel better on this level. It's going to make me feel powerful and safe. I've defeated the threat. Um, but it's just so irrational again. It's just it's so unnecessary. There is no threat. It's just the reality is another person holds a different viewpoint or has a different understanding of something.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes people will say to me if I'm having a discussion, they're like, "Oh, no offense," and I'll always say, "You can't offend me." It's impo and that feels it's really empowering. It's like you can't offend me. I can disagree with you, and I'm very opinionated, and I'll let you know if I disagree, but you won't offend me with what you say. It's like that Voltaire quote. It's like I disagree with what you say, but I'll defend your right to say it to the death. You know? And I think we live now, like we're in such, and there's always stuff to complain about, I know, and look at the world, but Steven Pinker's work has shown like through our evolution as a species and civilization, we've never lived in a better time in terms of safety, being able to meet our needs, shelter, food, all of that kind of thing. What that does though, it breeds such a like we're in such a privileged position to argue about fucking gender or way that kids are being brought up in school and and what food we're eating. We're in such a privileged position that we're able to actually argue about this stuff, and it seems incredibly important at the time. But if we've got a comet all of a sudden coming towards Earth or aliens come, like all of the stuff will be so unbelievably meaningless that everybody's getting offended by right now because there'll be something bigger to focus on.
There's no actual threats to us at the moment. So if there was an actual threat, no one would care. No one would be running around with, asking for their pronouns to be respected or anything.
Mm.
It's like, and I think we need to ask how we've gotten here because it's, you go down the street and you walk past the council and there's like the gay pride flag and there's this flag and there's that flag. Like I can't keep up with all the flags now. And I'm trying to be respectful while also trying to be challenging, I guess, because I think it's healthy to have to be challenged. It's necessary to be challenged. And yes, I'm not a minority. So people would go, oh, it's easy for you to say from your privileged position or whatever. But once again, you have to decide that you're a minority as well. Like everyone could coexist and everyone could just be allowed to be. And you can be gay and you can be Asian and you can be from Africa and you can be whatever. And I can be white Australian and everyone can be the same. It's just, I don't know why people are so desperate to cling to this flag for protection. Like I understand minorities have been attacked over the years, and there has been a lot of prejudice and everything, and that's I'm never going to dismiss that or minimize that. But I think there's a real need for people to step in to their own what's the word to take control of their own happiness, basically, and really, we call it being an active participant in your own human experience. So I'd love people to step into their autonomy,
Hmm.
and just make a stance internally and decide, all right, like you said, nothing can offend me. It's just I'm a human, you're a human, we're all here doing the best we can.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think like when I work with a client, it's like, okay, we need to see what's going on here. Okay, some stuff's happened in the past that wasn't ideal. We need to go back and we need to address that. We need to work through it. And then after we've done that, we need to now step into a new future, a new idea of you. And that autonomy is a big part of that. So let's work out who you are, who you want to be, and let's get you the life that you want and move forward. And I feel like collectively, a lot of the time, we look back at the past and there's been obviously horrible atrocities, but then it's like we have to just keep reflecting on that past all the time and keep going over it instead of stepping into a new future and focusing more on that.
Ruminating creates depression. So a lot of people who are hanging on to, and they're creating this victim mindset. Oh, well, you remember Joy, who we had on the podcast? It's a joy to be Joy
Yes.
with the spinal cord
Yeah.
injury. So I had a session with her yesterday, and it was amazing because we were talking about her journey, through doing the work, and the version of her that first turned up was very trapped in this on this human level, and oh this, and she was so bent out of shape, and understandably so. And listening to her yesterday, the things that have been really important, she just had so much happiness inside her. She said she was so there was no deficiency, and I said to her, I just want to reflect that you've seemingly, from my observation, transformed out of this human sort of journey, and she's more into on this spiritual sort of journey. She's more in her heart instead of her head. That's the only way I can describe it. And she sold her horse who she loved dearly because she wanted it to be happy and this other person to be happy, and she gets great joy out of seeing her horse and this person happy. Like that. That's the pinnacle. That's when you can only give away that which you possess. And so many people are in possession, harboring this anxiety or this resentment or this anger, or because they're still holding on to that identity and trying to protect that identity. Where this woman has literally lost the. I said to her, the soul doesn't have a need for a fully functioning body. The soul doesn't need working legs, and we had such I heard myself saying it as I was saying it. I'm like, oh, I wonder how this is going to land. And she laughed and she's like, it's so true. She said it doesn't. So she's being really playful with her. Um, she's not identifying as a disabled person. She's not, you know, waving a flag and going. She's just turning up, and she's just so inspiring.
Yeah, and she does exude joy, funnily enough. I remember, I know it was the first time I met her or not, but I came to a Myndfit party right where you are now. And I remember sitting down and just talking to her and sitting next to her. And I could literally, it wasn't even what we said, but I could literally feel her heart, and inspiring is a really, really good word for it. And I think that the issue is
But she
if
had to let
I'm,
her daily. What's helped her to how what she's experiencing, what she's got going on, is a byproduct of her doing the work. And there's this constant surrendering. There's a surrender up to giving up what should be, giving up what I desire, giving up what I think is what I'd like, giving up. Her goals. She wanted to. She moved to Queensland and wanted to do this, and this, and that hasn't panned out and become available. So she's just every day she's just surrendering. Right, okay, now I need a bowel bag perhaps, and da 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 da. And she's like constantly, and we spoke about it. It's like this, Ram Dass girl's a grist for the mill, or a dharmic fire. Her predicament is revealing all these impurities on a daily
Mm,
basis, all her desires for things to be a certain way. And she's got two options. She can do what she's doing and keep surrendering and giving up. And that's, you know, that's the path she's taken. So, we've spoken about it before. The spiritual evolution is done through the human experience. Um, so this is her karma in this life. Or she can choose to keep holding on. And if she kept holding on as she was, she'd be in such a she'd be similar to where I was. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
the,
yeah, I love that. Like shining a light on the impurities. I think that when we're in like a victim state, we are wrapped up in a state of defense, and we assume that if we're not in our own little circle of people who believe everything the same as we do, then anybody outside of that small circle is a threat to our psychological safety. And then we will assume that those people are a threat to us. And so, what we do then, whenever we have interactions with other human beings, we make assumptions about them. And so, it's purely imagination. Like I can go meet you at somewhere, and I'm like, oh, look at this privileged, piece of shit. They're going to think A, B, and C about me, which you do. You're a pretty piece of shit, actually. Um, and so now all of a sudden, I'm in a state of defense, even when getting to know you. So now I have an inability to connect. And so then I go around with an inability to connect with other human beings unless I'm in my own little echo chamber. And because that's the only place that I can seek connection as a human, I become somewhat addicted to that little echo chamber and that group who will think and say all the same things as me. When we only feel connection with people who have the exact same beliefs and everything as us, that's so unbelievably sad because
and
we're just, hey?
unhealthy because there's no growth there.
And unhealthy because there's no growth there. We lose connection. We shut ourselves off from new connections. And the issue is when those echo chamber groups get big enough, they just start attacking each other anyway, because all of a sudden it's like, all right, we're all vegans or we're all carnivores, whichever one. And this is what we believe. And they get big enough where it's like, well, I believe in that type of carnivore, not this carnivore or raw vegan or non. And then they attack each other. And it's so all it is and that's what will happen because if I feel like I'm under psychological threat all the time, then my brain will look for threat. It's wired to do so. It's called the reticular activating system. It's like, let me scan my environment on a moment to moment basis and see if I can see some sort of real or perceived threat. Guess what? You'll find it because if you don't see something immediately in your environment, your mind will make it up. Oh, well, that person, they might have that background and say this to me. And so we're always on a state of hypervigilance. We never have this place where we could take a deep breath, look someone in the eyes, and connect with them. And so it's like you said, it's not healthy.
That's why the divorce rate is so high because couples are perceiving each other to be a threat. And, these people have come together in a state of love and all of a sudden they stop being in that state of love within themselves because the ego takes over and it perceives all these threats and it takes things personally and it assumes that this person can. And we are infinitely better all around on every level when we're in our hearts. But the world, if someone isn't turning up every day like Joy is, the world will alter us. We'll allow ourselves to be altered by the world because I had this vivid memory of an experience. I think I might have spoken about it in an early podcast. An ex-girlfriend and I went to the MCG to go to a cricket match, Boxing Day test. And there was a couple sitting next to us, and they were vibrant and having fun. And so I was sitting next to the guy, and his girlfriend was on his right, and my girlfriend at the time was on the left. And um, I just started, a bit of banter with them, strangers they'd never been before. I think they were from overseas or something, and it was just, and I was trying to include her, but my ex, decided to, and this is what happens when the ego kicks in. It contracts, and that creates separation, and so she distanced herself because she perceived them to be the threat. The
Mm,
guy and the girl, they're both very attractive, and so her insecurities came up. She started perceiving this threat, and she got really defensive. And I was fascinated. I'm like, there's nothing there's no threat here. The only threat is in your head. Anyway, we're catching the train home, and she just went at me. She just this venomous, all her suffering, she started projecting onto me, and I was just like, okay, and I just had to turn up. I was just in there going, I'm not going to allow this unhealed person to alter me. I want to stay authentic and true and in my heart. And it was very difficult to do in the moment, but I came out of it just like all I felt was compassion for her. And we separated, and I was just like, I hope you heal. I hope you find your way home. I hope you get back into your heart, but I don't need to be around that. And it happened the other day, with Em and I. We were just in this very neutral space. It wasn't fighting, but it wasn't being affectionate either. And then I was like, why am I doing this? And I just went and bought him some flowers. And I was like, that's where I feel the best. That's where I'm at my best, is when I'm giving and when I'm in that state of love. And whatever M's got going on or doesn't have going on, that's her business. It's not, it doesn't need to alter me. I can still buy her flowers. Whether she's open to receiving them or not is her deal. She was, and she came up to me later, and she she left me this little note.
Oh,
Well, I love you, and she said to me, the next day, she goes, "Thank you for getting into your heart. Thank you for getting us back into that space." So ego activates ego is a rule of thumb, but heart activates heart as
mm.
well. So if you're ever, instead of trying to wrestle and figure things out on an intellectual level in relationships, just get into your heart, and that'll activate the other person's heart.
Yeah, and take responsibility to do that because I think oftentimes, yeah, we wait, whether it's a relationship or a friendship or something, we wait for the other person to do something nice or get into their heart, and they're waiting for us, and then all of a sudden, days, weeks, and months go by, and now we hate them, and they hate us. And it's like, and then oftentimes when we do drop into our heart, we're like, oh, I could have done this 3 days ago. That would have been more beneficial to everyone. So, like take ownership. I think I was reading something yesterday as well. This is on the topic like of this, victim state and like negativity and all that. I wonder like how much of a role social media like plays in that too. I read this thing where they took, I think it was 5,000 or 10,000, might have been 10,000 AI chatbots, and they put them on a social media platform together, like no humans, just the chatbots. And they wanted to see how they would interact and everything. And it didn't take long before they just started attacking each other, got really negative and all that. And so, yeah. And so like, they just looked like, so the question is like, is there something inherently, and I think yes, is there something inherently unhealthy just about the interaction of social media anyway? Because it's very, inhuman, it's very dissociated.
Social media is just a revealer. It's just going to reveal. It's just um, it just highlights, what's happening in people. Remember that if you're holding a cup of coffee and someone comes along and bumps into you, what spills out, and it's whatever's in you is going to come out. And I think that's what social media is. It's just bumping into everyone. It's just revealing what's in everyone. And I used to think that humans were inherently horrible, and not horrible. I used to think our sort of default was that attack, but it's not. That's the ego. That's on that level. My understanding now is that we have that we call it Buddha nature. It's that we're inherently compassionate beings. If you saw, you could be fighting with this person, and your egos are in this wrestling match, and then they cut themselves on something. Instantly, you're going to shift out of that and into your
Mm.
heart. You go, oh, you okay? Oh, no, no, let me see. The fighting's going to be gone. So that reveals, everything is just revealing. It's going to reveal that's our inherent nature. But people either don't know that, or that responsibility. It's our responsibility every day to connect with that nature and try and come into contact with other people from that part of us.
But you can see how it would really skew because if you spend, and I don't spend too much time online, but if you spend like a lot of your time online, like most people do, you can see how you would have the idea that humans were adversarial and nasty and negative and mean because that's what it is. But then if you then pay attention, like if I pay attention to my interactions that I have with humans during the day, it's overwhelmingly positive. Like it's so good. Like the people down the cafe or the people in the line at the cafe or down at the shops or, like yesterday we were at the shops and there was a lady, it was a tight car parking space and she was waiting to back out. I could see she was freaking out. So I like stopped the car and let her out. She put her window down. She's like, "Oh, thank you so much. You have a great day." I'm like, "You too." And I'm like, people are lovely. Like people are so nice. But then if I then just ignore that and jump online, I'll be like, "Oh, everyone wants to attack me. Everyone disagrees with me. Other people are privileged and I'm not, and I've got it so hard." And well, let me quickly find an online group of people that are going through exactly the same thing as me, and we can all complain with each other, and I'll feel somewhat safe.
But your and my brains aren't wired to go to perceiving the threat. So our reality is that um, well, it's no coincidence that we come into contact with these nice people and have wonderful exchanges and interactions because that's what we're wired for. That's what we're subconsciously looking for.
Yeah. I think there's still threat. Like I still perceive threat, but it's not dominant. Or I've got a bit of like I'll walk down like let's say with Tommy and I live in Frankston South, but I'll venture into Frankston, for quite a bit. And Frankston's got some interesting characters. A lot of them that I talk with and get along with. But if I see someone really unhinged and I've got Tommy with me, my brain will be like, if this guy comes over, I'm ready to fuck him up. And then I'm like, okay, relax, Ryan, relax. But like, it's like he's shown no signs of threat
All
yet.
I'm going to say was, oh, I can see this guy, and Tom and I are going to walk this way, and we're just going to walk around. But no, so I'm going to fuck him up and get him in a headlock. And
What I'm trying to say is like there's a threat response in me, but it's
need that.
not.
At Myndfit, clients come in and they're typically 80% reactive, 20% responsive. 20% of the time, they're choosing what they're saying, thinking, and operating at that level. That's so small. 20% of the
Mm,
time, at the rest of the time, it's just react, react, react. So doing the work, the goal is to switch those numbers around and get them 20% reactive, 80% responsive. And we've made it 80-20. And it's interesting when I ask clients, what do you think the percentages should be? And they're like, 100%. I'm like, no,
mm.
perfect. We don't want to be this. We need reactiveness. We need spontaneity. We need to make decisions, in the moment. So what you're doing is still critical for, we do need to. But what you did was how you perceived that you saw a threat. You didn't perceive a threat, and so there's a massive distinction there between seeing a threat and perceiving the threat because the perception is just in your head. It's the imagination kicking in. It's
Yeah,
conclusions, going to the worst case scenario, assuming all that stuff.
yeah,
It just makes this big dramatic narrative where you stayed in reality. Reality is there's a person walking towards me. There's something not quite right about them. Perhaps I'm just gonna take steps to make sure that we don't interact with them.
yeah, yeah. And if it's overactive, then all of a sudden I see the lady trying to back her car out, and I look in the window. I'm like, no, fucking privileged, 35-year-old white woman. What car she got? Oh, that car says this about her, so now I've got a whole narrative. I'm like, no, fuck her. I'm not going to let her out. So that's what we do when it's probably taken over. It's ruining our lives really at that point.
You can't, we talk about we're all just walking each other home. You can't walk someone else home if you're not okay.
If you don't know the way home, if you're just wandering the streets like a madman,
You're standing there with steam coming out of your ears in the middle of the street, going, "I'm gonna fucking take this dude."
come here. I'm going to walk you home, you piece of shit. Come here.
Oh, it's fascinating. So we are responsible for our own psychological safety. There's psychosocial safety. There's work. WorkSafe are actually bringing that in as a law now, the psychosocial safety in the workplace. But we have this personal responsibility, and if people start taking that responsibility and understanding how much of a privilege it is to have that responsibility, it's not a burden. It's it's very empowering to have this sense of responsibility and ownership and autonomy to go, oh, I get to choose how I feel. I get to go, oh, okay, this whatever someone's offering is just a gift. I don't have to accept it. I don't have to take this on. It's not mine. It's theirs. So I can. Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're having that going on. Thank you, but no, thank you. And you can keep moving. You don't have to keep getting stuck and trapped. So imagine if imagine if 10% of the population, took a step towards that self responsibility, and it'd be such a different world.
It would be. It would. And you can ask yourself, like, what am I trying to defend in those moments? That can be something to ponder, something to meditate on, or something to journal. Like, what exactly am I trying to protect when I go into that reactive and defensive mode? And sometimes people say, well, I don't want to be seen as wrong, or that I'm bad, or that I'm not good enough, or, that I'm not worthy to have my experience. And now you're talking about just deficiencies once again that are beliefs in your mind.
Let it all play out. Okay, what happens if I am wrong? Let the movie keep playing. Like, oh, and they're going to laugh at me. Yeah, okay, and what's going to be hurt by this person laughing? And what happens after that? And when you let it play out and you really sit with it all, and you go, again, we talk about we call it turning up empty. When we're in our hearts and there's no ego involved in the situation where we're empty of ego, there's nothing to get hurt. But most people, when someone says, "Oh, you look like an idiot," you look like you're Amish because you can't see your mustache. That says more about me than it says about you. That's like me firing a gun. If your ego is wired to perceive these threats, it's going to, hear that gun going off. It's going to, where's the bullet? And it's going to go and jump in front of the bullet and
Mm.
take one to the chest. But that's you have to take those words and harm yourself with them.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so
why that's why a lot of comedians can be so disarming, but you see sometimes people more in the public eye. It's like as soon as and we would say in Australia, as soon as they take the piss out of themselves, it's like all of the people that want to attack kind of lose their ammunition. They're like, oh, I was meant to say that and meant to hurt them. But they've said it about themselves, and it's like, oh, it's like their gun they had is just dissolved in their hands and they haven't got anything to attack anymore.
I was watching some the comedian Matt Rife. I was watching some of his clips, and he does a lot of crowd interaction. And he's throwing people in wheelchairs under the bus, and just and no one's safe, in that room. And they go there intentionally, hoping to get thrown under the bus. They want to. They're holding up signs,
Me next, do me, do me.
And I think it's just so healthy. I think the comedy industry is so important because it plays with everything. It tosses it up, and it really goes after the ego, and yeah, it's so weird. People can go to a comedy show and get the absolute piss taken out of them and laugh and have the best time, and then they walk outside and someone goes, "A nice t-shirt, dickhead," and all of a sudden they're offended again.
Yeah.
You just literally just sat there for an hour and got shreds. Your identity, had shreds torn off it, and then you walk outside and one little thing upsets you.
Yeah, I think that's probably on a societal level. I think that's the function of comedy in general. It's like if we didn't have it, we would just take ourselves so bloody seriously that we just run into issues, and that's what we're running into, and that's why the last 5 or 10 years, so many comedians have there's been attempts to, and some have been cancelled, but there's been attempts to cancel others, and thankfully it's not really working anymore, which is
You
great.
can tell the state of humanity by a comedian's sketch or routine, and um, what's his name? Who's in the bath? Ricky Gervais. The Ricky Gervaises of the world are like the counterbalance. They're like the world tries to go this way. So you listen to Ricky Gervais, and he's the antithesis for everything. He's the antidote for all that serious wokeness, and it's fascinating. If you hear Ricky going on a rant, you know that the world is trying to go that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just trying to balance out.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Anything else, or should we wrap it up?
I don't know. I just think it's important to remind people that we have a choice, and being offended is a choice, really. And it's what, as you said, sit with it, and what is actually being hurt. The heart is filled with love. The heart can't be hurt. So what is being hurt? And
It's this structure, this identity structure that we've built over many decades that the ego wants to keep solid and have nothing shake that up or, point to it. And so as soon as that starts to get shaky, then that's when we get defensive and go, no, this structure has to stay together. But the question is like, what if you just let the structure go? Like let it fall apart, see
yeah,
what happens.
you are not we talked to, it's amazing how the kids I'm working with are getting this and grasping this and going, oh, that's brilliant. We're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings, we're not the identity. You are not Ryan Hassan. You are on that level, but you're the conscious awareness that this model and identity and structure is in place. And when you position yourself in that space and just witness it, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings. This voice in your head goes, I can't believe they said that. You can counter it and go, I can't believe they said that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that they said that, because I get to choose whether I have been harmed. That's Seneca. Like, this is 2,500 years ago. A bloke was sitting there and said, if you believe you have been harmed, then you have been harmed. Your mind, therefore, is complicit in your suffering. Your mind is complicit in your suffering. If you have to decide you have been hurt, and then you feel hurt. Beliefs create thoughts, thoughts create feelings, feelings create behavior. I believe I've been hurt. Now I'm thinking, this hurts. Now I'm feeling hurt, and now I'm going to act as I've been hurt.
And hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean, and once again, that we don't like we can, there's a big leap from I disagree with you, I will voice my disagreement and my opinions that are unique to me. There's a big difference going from that to you hurt me, you offended me. There's a big leap. And that leap is like there's no gap at the minute for most people. It's just someone says something, bang, offended, hurt. Yeah. But it's like, can we then, and you talk about old Viktor Frankl's little his gap or whatever, what's it fucking called?
Someone said there's a stimulus and there's a space between
The
stimulus and
space, the gap of Viktor Frankl's gap.
eye gap.
Did he have a good thigh gap? Would have was pretty hungry. He didn't have much thighs for a while.
After he came out of the concentration camp, he had a
He
pretty good.
bulked, got a bit thick.
There's a bit of muscle wastage.
Uh,
Um,
I did not think we'd be talking about Viktor Frankl's thighs on this episode.
Me neither. I love what comes up.
Um,
Uh,
so yeah, my point was there's a big leap there. It doesn't feel like it for a lot of people, but there's a big leap to go from I disagree with that and I can voice my disagreement as opposed to I'm hurt.
and just stop and listen to what the person's saying and understand their words. Well, we've lost this whole sticks and stones can break my bones thing. I don't know. That's not in schools anymore, and I think it needs to come back because it was drilled into us that sticks and stones can break our bones, but names can never hurt us. You can call me whatever you like, and as I said, that says more about you than it says about me. It's okay. If there's nothing there to be offended or to take offence or to believe it's been offended, okay, sure, whatever. All right, no worries. Thank you. Thank you for revealing that you've got that inside of you. I'm sorry you've got that going on. I'm sorry you're hurting and you're trying to hurt me. Do you want to sit down and talk about it?
Yeah.
It's, that path is available to every human being. So the funny thing is, you've hurt my feelings. Last time I checked, feelings don't have pain receptors. So I don't know how feelings are being hurt.
No, no. You've elicited a feeling inside of me, which I've chosen to then indulge and then make the source of that uncomfortableness you. That would be probably a more accurate statement.
You are a neutral source of stimulus, and by the time I've filtered and processed the information that you provided, I have deemed to have been
Yeah.
offended.
I have
Uh,
felt anger and I don't have the capacity to hold that anger, so I need to then project it back onto you in a way to feel less pain. Here, take this.
you said something outside of my parameters of
Yeah.
acceptance. Now I blame you to be responsible for
You
my son.
must be wrong and responsible at the same time based on my filtering mechanism.
I wish
Which is
people
based, that mechanism is based upon all of my past experiences, and we all have a different filtering mechanism because we've all had different lives. But my one true life, the one I've lived, has to be the right one. So you and everybody else who disagrees with me based on my filtering is wrong and bad and needs to be
imagine
hurt.
it's mandatory to have to say that instead of what people are doing at the moment. Like you literally had to sit
I
there
don't
and
know. Saying fuck you is way easier.
you're a prick. You're a prick. It's just so weird. We
It
are
is.
hilarious. Keep saying. All right, you've got
All
to
right.
go.
I do. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Any comments or feedback, just let us know. Nico, pleasure as always, my friend.
Try and offend us.
Try,
Try
yeah,
and
try your best.
comment with offense.